All right, this next section we're going to talk about is members of Congress. And really the bottom line is, what kind of people work in Congress? Oftentimes when we talk about Congress, we can call it, we talk about the House and the Senate combined. But sometimes people will use the phrase Congress just to represent the House, and that the Senate is a different entity. And instead, together, they are the legislative bodies, the legislative branch. So it's all kind of different people speak of it in different ways. But who works in the House? Let's just focus on that way. What kind of people work in the House of Representatives? And if you notice, what you'll see is that this is, what is it, 70 years of membership of the House of Representatives. And really, there was a period of time when most members of the House were veterans. It was really common for people who had fought in war to then turn around and get a job in Congress. But that is becoming less common, largely because we're involved in less wars, and maybe the wars are less a big deal. I mean, I don't want to call Iraq and Afghanistan a small deal. Those wars, they're a huge deal, especially for those who served, but like World War II is different, right? This is law. Lawyers are still one of the top groups. This is business. Businessmen and women are becoming more and more common, kind of a little more common. Our president currently, Trump, is a businessman. Down here, this is education. There's always been a small number of Congress people who were formerly teachers or professors in universities. Public service. Now, this is a new one. You can see that there was really no one ever as a public servant as their previous job, and now recently we're seeing that number has rose dramatically. Okay, and the next thing we want to talk about is, okay, well, that's cool, it's interesting, and it's good to know. What are the chances that you actually get elected? How does that work? And what we find out is that an incumbent, a person who currently has the job, has an 80+% chance of being reelected into that same job. Now, is that because the House districts have been gerrymandered so tightly that it's actually easier to kick someone out in the primaries? Like, for example, let's talk about Brad Sherman. He's our congressman. And he won this election by 30 percentage points. Democrats have won this seat for the last 20 plus years. Would it be easier for a Republican to get him out in a general election, or for him to be primaried by someone and to lose when it was Democrat against Democrat? And what we often see, especially in our modern world where we're so polarized, where districts have been gerrymandered that are so extreme, it's really hard for a Democrat to lose a seat here, and in other areas of the country, it's really hard for a Republican to lose a seat. That the best way to get one of these people out is largely to primary them, is to get them when it's Democrat against Democrat or Republican against Republican. Because once it gets to the general, there's very little movement in terms of districts. San Fernando Valley has been Democratic for 20 plus years. And let's call it the, certain parts of, North Dakota or South Dakota or one of these states are Republican, and they've been Republican for 30 plus years as well. So incumbents, if you have that job, there's a much better chance that you'll keep it. And then, like I said, we talked about the jobs that they had. It's interesting that one of the things that has come along is online. And my gosh, it's such a crazy world nowadays online, right? We know that in 2016, Facebook played a huge role in the election of President Trump. We also know that President Obama was the first president to get heavy on Twitter. In 2010 or 2012, people say he was the first president to use Twitter massively to his advantage in those early races. Online has become a huge place for people to spread information. I just heard I have family members and close friends who are members of each political party. I'm very much a middle of the road kind of guy. And there are some of my family members and friends who are now turning on Facebook because apparently it's not a good. It's some people they're suggesting that it's very democratic, although the Democrats suggest that it's very Republican. I don't know. Um, I would suggest you don't get any political information from social media, but instead count on reliable sources that have been there for 100+ years instead of this new phenomenon that's just come around the last 10 years and really is uh, the wild, wild west of information. But now there's a new platform out there called P something. I forget what it's called. Where like people are moving to hear information that they want to hear and not be um, marked as being like conspiracy theories, false information, which is happening to a lot of the stuff that's coming out right now. So yeah, look, online is just now becoming an important source of information for politics, and it probably will continue to be, unfortunately, moving forward. But please, you guys, do your research. Don't trust anything you read online. Count on reliable sources that have been there for 100+ years. Those are the ones that you can trust.